So Melissa Silverman, if I pronounce this correctly? Close enough? Okay. Precision Agronomy Technical Lead with AgriCity Crop and Nutrition Limited. So Melissa here is the Precision Agronomy Technical Lead with AgriCity Crop and Nutrition Limited based in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. She spent the first 12 years of her career with Cargill Limited, gaining experience in agronomy, consulting, crop input sales, and sales management. In the fall of 2018, Melissa joined AgriCity, excited at the opportunity to work with leading-edge digital agronomy technology. She, along with her team of agronomists and UAV pilots, used special equipped drones to obtain sub-millimeter imagery, which is then analyzed by artificial intelligence, follows right into from our first topic here, to identify crop pests, growth concerns, and assess plant health and quality. Melissa holds a Bachelor of Science in Agriculture from the University of Saskatchewan and is a practicing professional agronomist with the Saskatchewan Institute of Agrologists. Melissa resides in her hometown of Biggar, Saskatchewan, with her husband and 3 young boys. Please welcome Melissa for this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Good morning. Thank you very much to the Manitoba Ag Days for having me. This is my first opportunity to attend this show, and I am very excited to be here and to be talking on this topic with you this morning. As this is a good segue in from our previous presentation talking around AI. Today I'm going to talk to you about digital scouting in agriculture and how using different types of imagery can assist us in our crop scouting. And I will leave some time for questions at the end. If I can figure out how to click. There we go. All right, so I didn't realize they were going to read my bio before, but I did put a little bit in about me here to get started. So as they mentioned, my name is Melissa Silverman, and I'm the Precision Agronomy Technical Lead with AgriCity. Up there, first and foremost, I am a mom to 3 wonderful little boys, age 9, soon to be 7, and soon to be 3. They keep me very busy with hockey and music and all of those fun things. So I attained my Bachelor of Science in Agriculture in 2009 from the University of Saskatchewan, majoring in agronomy and minoring in ag business. I was one of those, when I started, I wanted to be a veterinarian. I made about 2 weeks and decided I did not want to be in school for 12 years. And at that point, I really didn't know what I wanted to do with my career. And I was fortunate enough to get a crop scout position at the time with Cargill. And that is, as they mentioned, where I started my career in 2007 with Cargill. In a number of things. I was an agronomist for a number of years, crop scouting, consulting, all the fun things. Spent some time as a manager, and then I finished my career with Cargill over in Prairie Malt in Biggar, heading up the barley agronomy program there, which was very exciting and an interesting part of my career. I really enjoyed it. In November of 2018, I joined AgriCity, and it actually took me about a year before I decided that that was something I was interested in doing. I'm an old school agronomist. I walk fields. I do the ground truthing. I use my own eyes. And when they presented me with the technology that I'm going to show you today, I told them they were lying. There was no way that this, a drone could a drone could capture that type of high quality imagery, let alone could a computer identify what was going on in the fields. It wasn't until I saw some pictures and my mouth literally dropped to the ground. And I knew it was something I needed to jump into, and it's been very exciting. So I'm going to start, like I said, I'm a old school agronomist. So scouting a field, what do we think of? The famous W scouting pattern. So here's that example. So typically, for those of you that aren't agronomists in the room, when someone comes out to scout your field, that would be the typical pattern that we would walk or drive on a quad until the crop is too big to do so. My problem, tall canola and short legs. I think most people can imagine, have been there trampling through canola field. You're usually looking for a moose track or something to get through. Here's a picture of my two oldest boys. I don't know if you can see there hiding in that canola field. And for example's sake, so my oldest son is quite a tall child. He takes after my husband. He would be about 4'10" in this image, and you can see how tall that canola is. And so you can imagine trampling through that and having success with that, which ultimately leads us to, is this an accurate representation? Doing this W pattern, and my biggest fear was, am I missing something? When I would provide a recommendation to a customer, that was always one of my biggest fears was, did I miss something? Did I not go to the right corner of the field? And that's, again, one of the biggest challenges with scouting. So, technology change in agriculture. So this is what I'm going to base the bulk of my presentation on today, is talking about how we can use digital imagery to assist us in our crop scouting. And I want to reinforce, and I've been asked multiple times over the last year, I am not by any means saying that this technology is ever going to replace boots on the ground. It's not. There is, well, at least not right now. There's parts that a computer can't detect. A drone can't open up a canola pod and count seeds. We can't do yield assessments. We can't accurately check for cutworms. So I am not by any means saying that this technology is replacing, but instead using this technology as a tool in making the best, or getting the most accurate information to make the best decisions possible. So I'm going to talk on satellite imagery, ultra high resolution NDVI imagery, and then get into what makes what we're doing a little unique, and the sub-millimeter imagery. Drone use on the farm. So drone use is directly tied to what we are doing. Drones are becoming more and more a part of the farm, and for good reason. They can cover a lot of ground a lot quicker than we can on our feet. And artificial intelligence. And I'm going to talk about how we are using artificial intelligence with our sub-millimeter imagery. So satellite imagery, this is nothing new. I'm sure everyone here has used satellite imagery at some point in their career. So what does that look like? So this is just showing the same field at different levels of satellite imagery. So MODIS and Landsat. MODIS is really not used. It's not, don't get a whole lot of information off of that. Landsat would be at a 30-meter resolution. Sentinel, getting that much better. We're at a 10-meter resolution. And the best satellite imagery available right now is the Planet Labs, which would be a 3-meter resolution. And that's just showing, I don't think I have is there a laser on here? This? Ah, there we go. So yeah, this is showing the Landsat here, the Sentinel, and the Planet Labs. So just showing the level of detail change from, this should be, say, 30 meters, 30 meters to 10 meters to 3 meters. So obviously at the meter level, we can get some good information, but it's, it's at a meter level. So some of the pros of satellite imagery, and it can be very useful. So frequent imagery at little to no cost. So the satellites typically go over every 5 to 7 days, which allows us, quick access to without even stepping foot in our field. These are typically used to assist in building prescriptions. And it allows for field-by-field comparisons. Some of the cons, and I don't want to call them cons, but some of the struggles with satellite imagery, like I said, again, it's at a meter level, which makes it very difficult to, it's not the most accurate we can get. This also doesn't show us why are we showing low biomass, right? So the red areas showing low biomass, why is that happening? So we need to go out and ground truth that, which obviously takes time. And again, if it's tall canola, how am I getting out to the middle of the field? Because I can't take my quad out anymore. UHR imagery. So this is another type of NDVI imagery, typically at the centimeter level, so 5 to 15 centimeters. This imagery here is at 8 centimeters. And this is actually a bit of a funny story, but this is just showing the level of detail that we get. Now at the centimeter level, we're getting down to where we can actually start to see the rows. So much more accurate information to apply towards writing prescriptions. Any guesses as to what this image is showing us? Or any guesses? No? It's a fertility issue, obviously, Melissa. But what happened here, so the customer asked us to come out and fly this field. He had hired a third party to spread his nitrogen on his cornfield. And the spreader came out, and he got started up in this top left corner here. And as he got started, he forgot to turn the spreader on. So he started going, and he got to here, and he went, oh, I forgot to turn it on. So he turned it on, and we got going. And then he got about halfway, 3/4 through the field, and he realized, I'm going to have too much fertilizer left over. This is not what I got paid for. So he dumped it. He just started pouring it on, which led to this. So obviously, customer was able to take this image back to that third party and get reimbursed a little bit, because he clearly did not get what he had paid for or asked for. But at the same time, this image here is just this box blown up. He did not realize that he actually had a drill issue. So these little green spots here is where the drill was just dropping corn seed. So obviously that's not something that he can address this year, but it was an issue that he did not realize was occurring with his drill. So he was able to get that corrected for the following season. I just want to talk about this for a few moments. So in November, I was given the opportunity to go to California to meet with the developers of Sony's new smart agriculture solutions. I was able to, I took this picture here. This is the, I don't know what I just did. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened. This is the camera here. So we were able to, we were flying Brussels sprouts, which was quite interesting. I had never seen Brussels sprouts in person, so that was pretty cool. But I just want to touch on that technology. So clearly this is attached to a drone, this camera. And using Sony's Fast Field Analyzer, we are able to fly a field and obtain the stitched image within, we fly the field in about 15 minutes. And when I say a field, I'm talking about a 160-acre field, 15 minutes. And it's analyzed through Sony's Fast Field Analyzer in under 1 to 2 minutes, depending on the size of the imagery, which is pretty fast. I was pretty excited about it. So how it works, it's a multispectral camera. So it has a 5-centimeter RGB and a 12-centimeter NDVI camera, which is really nice. As I mentioned with the satellite imagery, one of the issues with it is we need to go ground truth. We're not sure why we're seeing the low biomass areas. With this imagery, we are able to essentially have the ground truthing right in front of us with the 5 centimeter RGB. So we can bring up the stitched 12 centimeter NDVI and just click on the area of concern, and up pops the RGB image, which is a pretty cool advancement. I was quite excited about that. So some of the pros of using NDVI, UHR imagery, it's a fairly quick turnaround. So as long as the weather, obviously the weather always plays a role, as long as the weather is cooperating, we can get this done pretty quick. So we typically fly with a drone. This camera's at 400 feet. It can handle quite a bit of cloud cover, and the overlap is about 20%. So that's what allows us to fly the field in about 15 minutes. So yes, quick turnaround, no waiting for the satellite every few days. It gives us a much more in-depth assessment, allowing for a much more detailed prescription. So this type of imagery will allow us to do things like VR, so variable rate fungicide mapping or variable rate desiccation mapping, to help make sure that we are applying our products at the most accurate rates possible, and bringing, with the desiccation, making sure that we're having our crop mature at an even rate. We can also use this imagery. I don't know why it keeps cutting out. Am I clicking something wrong? I don't know. Sorry about that. I could also use this to identify areas for our sub-millimeter scouting, which I'm just going to get into here in a second. So using the NDVI imagery, we can box areas of concern to look further. And typically, we would have to go walk that ourselves, but not with what we're doing. So this is where I'm going to get into here now, what everyone wants to hear about, and that's the sub-millimeter scouting with artificial intelligence. So this is done through a company called Taranis. They are an Israel-based company that developed it. We work with their U.S. office. They just moved their head office from Israel over to California here. And we've been working with them now here for 2 years. And yeah, I'm just going to dig deeper into this exciting tech. All right, so I just have a quick little video I'm going to show you that it's the Taranis video that kind of summarizes what Taranis is doing and how they're using the tech to make decisions.
Every farm comes with a mission to grow healthy crops. But raising a profitable crop has been challenging the past several years. Never before have we had more access to data to make informed decisions. Why wonder when you can know? If growers resort to farming with traditional methods, they are left wondering why the crop performed the way it did at harvest time. The challenge is making sense of the information quickly enough to drive in-season decisions. This is exactly how Taranis, a global company specialized in ag imagery, works to create healthy farms. Our technology is capable of analyzing the crops on multiple levels. At revolutionary leaf-level precision, we fly at 200 kilometers per hour and can still see details that even the sharpest human eyes wouldn't see. Now, imagine all that precision combined with artificial intelligence algorithms that identify and quantify every single anomaly, allowing farmers to plan the best course of action. The analysis becomes actionable immediately by turning data into prescriptions accurate to the plant level and building the largest ag imagery database in the world. In a fast and easy way, these solutions can be transmitted over to the machinery, which give the growers the possibility of resolving the issue in record time with just one click. The result? Increase in the farmer's profitability, who saves time and money with less usage of pesticides and fertilizers. Sustainability not only for the environment, but for the operation as a whole. Our solutions adapt to every need, regardless of the size of the property. Every farm gets much more than a monitoring system, but a business model that provides profitable and safe, actionable insights, constantly evolving to match each field. We are Tyrannus, and we help farmers grow.
All right, so big burning question. How does it work? So this is where the drones really start to come in. So this is a picture of one of the drones in our fleet. This is a DJI Matrice 600 Pro. We do use some different, we're always experimenting with different types of drones. The Matrice would be, right now, is our drone of choice, mostly because of the payload capacity and the flight time. Flight time would be the biggest hurdle around this technology. Batteries don't last very long. And on average, we can get about a 30-minute flight time with this drone on a set of batteries, which isn't, it's pretty good. Of course, we have to bring that back down and swap the batteries out to keep going. So the patented camera pod, so that box at the bottom that you see there, that is the Tyrannus camera pod. So we do have in our booth one of these drones with the camera pod attached to it. If you're interested after to come take a look at it and look a little closer at it. It doesn't look too fancy. Essentially, it has mirrors inside of it. And the mirrors, along with a typical Canon DSLR camera, essentially tricks, I like to say tricks, the camera into thinking it's taking a still image when in fact we are still moving. So with a normal drone, if we were to fly a field, we either have to take video of the field, which obviously doesn't necessarily allow us to get right down to that leaf level. And if we do want to get down to that leaf level, we need a still image. And a still image doesn't happen when you are flying a typical drone. So with this camera pod, we can take still images at nice high resolution images without stopping. So we fly the drone at 50 feet average and 45 kilometers an hour. So this allows us to fly a quarter section in 12 to 15 minutes. So when you compare scouting a quarter section or flying a field in 12 to 15 minutes compared to the typical W pattern, it would take me, at the same level, it would take me hours to walk through that field. So we set the flight plan. So the pilot actually is not flying the drone. We set the flight plan on where we want the drone to go. So typically our flight paths are about 110 meters? Yeah, 110 meters apart. And the drone will fly back and forth across the field. So the pod captures on average 1 to 1.5 images per acre, which on a quarter section gets us 160 to 200 high resolution images. Oh, and I just said that again. So yeah. So here's a couple examples of some of these images. So nice high resolution images at the 50 feet level. So, but now what? We have 200 of these images. For us to, who has the time to scan through all of these images? That's the one downside with drones. When we fly these, who's going to spend the time to analyze all of that data? There's a lot of data in these pictures, but it's extremely time consuming to go through all of these images. And this is where the AI comes in. So, Tyrannus AI, they have a team of, how it all gets started with AI is we need to train the computer. And so Tyrannus has a team of over 100 agronomists around the world that are working 24/7 to train the computer system. So this last season was our first year with this technology in Canada, so we really used it as a year to collect as much data as possible. They had been flying corn, soybeans, wheat. Those are the cotton. Those would be the big ones that they had a lot of experience with in the U.S. But when we came over to Canada, obviously we have a different growing season, a different length of growing season, and different crops. And we needed to collect as much data as possible. So those agronomists initially are there to help train the computer. The computer on average needs to see an instance or an issue about 1,000 times, which sounds like a lot, but when you think about 160 to 200 images on a quarter section in 10 to 15 minutes, how many times you might see an insect or some sort of leaf damage, 1,000 times can happen pretty darn quick. So what does the computer detect? So it detects diseases, insects, and insect damage, weeds, nutrient deficiencies and stress, emergence, and irrigation issues. And I'm going to talk and show some examples of each of those and how the computer is detecting that. So this is just showing, so once we have flown the field, and we have all of these images, we need to upload these images into the Taranis cloud. So we upload those images, and within 24 to 48 hours, we have an insight report comes back to us. And this is just an example of what that insight report looks like. So each one of those dots is an image. And this one is showing, this is a weed insight report. So there's different insight reports for each thing. So there's a weed one, there's a disease one, an insect one, a nutrient deficiency, an emergence, a row coverage one for cereal crops, for example. And it tells us exactly what we've got and where we've got it. Right down to the species level. So it tells us when we have dandelions. It tells us when we have sow thistles. And it shows us exactly that weed. So on the side there you can see some sample images. In the initial insight report, it just shows us some of the bulk images, or the main ones. And we do have the ability to now go deeper if we so choose. So this is the remote scouting tool. So you can see on the side we can filter to whatever we want to look for. So maybe we want to find where exactly we have Canada thistle in our field. And it'll drop all of the images and show us exactly where we have those weeds or whatever you want to look for. So you can click on all of those images and the boxes will show the pests. And I'm going to show some examples here. So let the AI tell you where to look. So this is that same canola picture. This is at my farm this past summer. And if you can see that teeny tiny red box there is telling me, the insight report, it told me there was an insect there. And let me tell you, when the drone was out scouting this field, it was July, so obviously in July, what am I looking for in canola? I'm looking for caterpillars. And I went and did some scouting while the drone was up for that 12 to 15 minutes. And I could not find a caterpillar. I brought how many plants back to the truck and banged them on my white hood. Did not find any caterpillars. And the next day when I got the insight report back, wouldn't you know it, there wasn't a lot, but the computer did find 2 caterpillars. So there's our red box. There's my caterpillar. And I love this picture because, green on green. How the computer identifies that is just incredible to me. Here's another example here. This one's even better. So here's teeny tiny red box, and this is not a pest. necessarily. This is a good pest. But any guesses what that might be, that little red box? A ladybug. Which, again, why do we care about ladybugs? They're beneficial insects, so maybe we've got some aphids or something going on in the field there. So I love that example too. I should mention too that all of these images are GPS tags, so the drone does have a GPS on the camera, or on the drone and on the camera. So all of the images are GPS tagged, so if we have an image and we want to go exactly to that spot in the field to look at it, you know, maybe we want to go ground truth it even though we have the image right in front of us, we can use the app to go out to that spot in the field and look closely at that image. So this is just showing there's a flea beetle, and we all know how small flea beetles are. So here it's just showing the flea beetle and all of the flea beetle damage. Diseases. We get asked a lot about diseases, and I will say we are still in the works of showing severity. I don't know why it keeps cutting out. I apologize. I don't think I'm pressing anything. Diseases, we're still working on developing the severity ratings for our crops in Canada. They are very hopeful, the Tranis team, to have that up and going for this upcoming season. But this is just showing, so this detected late blight here, as you can see in the potatoes. We all know how devastating late blight can be. Nutrient deficiencies. Again, so it's telling us that we have a potential phosphorus deficiency going on here. And again, it's showing some leaf damage as well. Oh, come on. Okay, herbicide resistance. So obviously weeds. Weeds are one that Tranis is extremely confident with. It has thousands of species in the computer that it has learned. So this image is a really good example of showing the wild oats here, the wheat. So we could use this in detecting herbicide resistance. Another good suggestion that what I suggest to use this tech for weeds, because obviously we typically already have our herbicide decisions made when we are, in season. But maybe when we are flying for, let's say we are doing an emergence count in canola or looking for flea beetles in canola, hit another bird and scout for weeds. And yes, in canola, we obviously don't have a whole lot we can do with our herbicide decisions. However, now we have an accurate report of what exactly we have for weeds to get us through for the next 2 to 3 years, because weeds typically don't change that much over the 2 or 3 year time frame, to help us with our herbicide making decisions in the fall when we're making them, or buying decisions, I should say. Emergence in canola. So I always talk about canola in Saskatchewan, but I need to remember that I am in Manitoba right now. So they do also do this in corn and soybeans. So this is a report from a newly emerged canola field in southern Saskatchewan this past spring. And so you can see all these teeny tiny little pink boxes where it has boxed the little canola cotyledons, and gives us a summary of what our emergence looks like. And it produces a heat map as well. So all the insight reports produce a heat map, basically summarizing the whole field, showing where your high areas are, your low areas, your medium areas. Nice little summary there. So before I take some questions here, I'm just going to do a brief little summary on what I've talked about today. So I talked about satellite imagery and using it as an initial analysis and priority before UHR flights or a sub-millimeter artificial intelligence flight. And keeping track of the issues that maybe we found via UHR or an AI2 flight. UHR imagery. Again, getting down at that centimeter level allows us for much more accurate zone prescriptions for fungicide, fertility, and desiccation, or detecting hold-feel anomalies, and prioritizing AI2 scouting as well. And the sub-millimeter imagery. Again, this technology it's incredible to me how much it has changed in even a year. And it's really, truly one of those things that you need to see it to believe it, which is why I provided so many examples here today. But using it for things like detecting crop emergence or flea beetle damage in canola, detecting weeds, other insects, disease in our fields, and getting those individual heat maps to really get a full. I keep hitting the mic here. A full field analysis and what exactly is going on to help us with our decision making. Again, reinforcing that this technology does not replace necessarily boots on the ground agronomy, but it is a very, very useful tool in helping us to get the most accurate information to make the best decisions possible for our farms. At this time, I will take any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Melissa, we have at least 10 minutes of questions. So I'm looking for you, I guess, to have questions. Yes, okay. Now, if you can raise your hand, I'll come up. Just hang on.
What is the pricing based off of? Is it based on a per acre per year or per scouting pass for, say, the drone?
Yeah, it's based on a per acre.
What is the cost?
I really don't want to get into pricing up here, but I am around all week, so please feel free to come talk to me about it afterwards.
Oh, sorry.
For the emergence you were showing, is it a plant count function? Is it a ground cover function? Or is it a target yield?
Count. So the computer is actually detecting each and every plant.
Okay, so then you would apply that versus the targeted plant.
Yeah, so they'll ask us for, as we've been training the computer for our seeding rates, we've been doing some ground truthing with yield maps and all that to see, how accurate is the computer detecting. In this stage, there's still a lot of manual as well. And I should add, when the computer does scout, the agronomists are still there to double check it, right? Because computers are never foolproof, right? So.
Can you raise your mic a little bit closer?
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
it keeps
perfect.
falling down on me.
It's getting tired, I guess, from hanging out there. Still at least 7 minutes of questions. Yes, just hang on.
So when you're sending the drone out to scout fields, do you ever get misinformation about the weeds? Because some weeds can be misinterpreted or can be known as something else.
Is it wrong sometimes?
Yeah,
it happens. Again, computers aren't foolproof, right? So when we get the insight report back, if the tagging team that has checked on the computer, if they see something that maybe they don't feel the computer is accurate, if they can't answer it, they'll contact me and ask me to take a look at it. So it all happens within the 24 to 48 hour time frame. It does happen, not very often. I think last year we had 2 or 3 mistakes. One being it was an albino weed. So it detected the weed, but the color threw it off. And it still tags it, but it will tag it as an unknown, and that'll get thrown over to the agronomist team for some help.
A question about the imagery. you said the imagery is geo-referenced, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so can the imagery also be transferable over to like a GIS system?
To a GIS system?
Yeah.
So like over to...
Like Esri, ArcGIS, or something like that. Can you use the imagery? Can you export the imagery from your software over?
Absolutely.
What's the what's the format of the?
What's the format? So all of the images are. So I should clarify, the images, the sub-millimeter images aren't stitched like they are in a UHR image, right? So the UHR image, we can export that image to use as a layer, but the geotagged, because it's 1 to 1.5 images each acre, it don't get stitched together, right? So the heat map is just kind of making an assumption or based on the summary that it's created. So you can use that heat map or export that heat map over to use as a layer in your decision making, but the images individually, you do have access to all of those images. They're your images, right? It's your data, but they are individual. So. Okay,
and then just one more question. Does the drone, I kind of walked in halfway on your presentation, so I may have missed this, but does the drone collect in multispectral bands, like near infrared and all that as well? Or?
Yeah, so that would be on the with the UHR. So it's a separate pod system. So the Tyrannus pod is strictly the sub-millimeter, getting down to the leaf level. But I did talk about a Sony camera that has a multispectral NDVI RGB imagery on it. Yeah.
Thank you for the questions. I'm just curious, do we have Christian Hebert is next? Is he in the room here? I'm hoping he is. Pardon me? Oh, okay, good, because just wanted to make sure here before we move on too far. I have one question.
Yeah.
We talk a lot of in-field, high precision imagery, high resolution down to the millimeters, but what is the resolution of the farmer when he's combining his crop? And how do you reconcile the two?
That's a good question. I don't know how I can answer that.
Because, the farmer's combines is at least 25, whatever the farmer will harvest is 25 feet wide, the swath.
Right.
As much as 40 or whatever bigger. So you probably lose whatever resolution you might see in the field. You'll never really be able to capture that from the combine. Maybe some other crops, maybe row crops or some other things, but there's a bit of a gap there to be filled somehow, somewhere, sometime. But
right, like I said, each image is about what would it be? 12. Where are they? 5 by 10 feet wide, and they are only. It's taking 1 to 1.5 images every acre. So by no means are we covering whole field, right? But when you compare that to a typical scouting pattern, and even just walking, when I'm walking at a field level, it's all dependent on where my eyes are looking, right? But having that overview in a uniform pattern across the field, we're getting a much more detailed analysis of the field.
Very good. I think we'll leave it at that for now. Okay. Thank you very much, Melissa. Let's give Melissa a great hand of applause.